What's up guys, Chris here. I'm here today doing a pedalboard build. Kinda wanted to do this for a while. As you guys already know, I won a pedalboard contest on Instagram filled with Wampler pedals, TC Electronics, stuff like that. And the board that they sent me was from Creation Music Company, which is a sick board, wired perfectly clean, very nice. Except there's one tiny little caveat to that, and that is I live in New York, and traveling with a board with some wooden components on it is a little bit much for me. I do drive, but I don't drive everywhere, and even when I do drive, oftentimes I would have to park, down a few blocks, and then I gotta carry guitar, sometimes amp or amp head, pedal board. It gets to be a bit strenuous, a bit much. So I wanted to kind of switch out the pedals I liked and get a lighter board. The pedal train boards are usually the thing I go for because they're, well, lightweight, and they're usually quite easy to kind of get together. So what I started with, I went ahead and grabbed a Metro 20. Let's see if that can get focused. There you go. And what I'm doing with it is that I'm putting some of my pedals into the Gig Rig looping system here so that I can just leave them on and just kind of bop, 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 like that, less tap dancing. So I went ahead and just kind of checked the layout, made sure that it's all good, that everything fits, at the very least, before I start putting in patch cables and power and all that stuff. And basically what's going to happen with this is that the tuner, the equator, immerse reverberator from Neunaber, and the ditto looper, they're going to be out of the loop because I don't feel like I need the tuner in the loop anyway. I just boom when I need it. The equator is a tone shaper. I keep that always on. Same thing with the immerse, always on. And then the dittos for my funsies when I need to loop or if I'm teaching something and I got to give an example or whatever. So that's going to be outside the loop. What's in the loop though is going to be the, get that over there, is going to be the Ego compressor, the Tumnus, Pantheon, and the Keeley Supermod workstation. I'm going to have those in each of these loops. Now, the Ego I actually do not keep always on. I use it mostly for clean tones. So for me, whenever I hit the drive, that's got to go off. And what I like about the Quartermaster here is that it has a flip-flop kind of thing you could do with each of the loops, so that if I say I want to hit the Pantheon on, let's say that's in loop 3, and the Ego was on, this will shut off and the Pantheon will come on. So that's quite nice because I don't want to have to keep, like, every time I hit the Pantheon, I got to turn off the Ego compressor. It's a little bit much for me. The Tumnus is my stacker. It goes into the Pantheon. I very rarely use this by itself. Very rarely. It's just in combination with the Pantheon. And the mod workstation, I'm not huge into modulation. I'm not a big mod guy, but I like having this because it has a lot of different modulations that I could kind of just go through. And it's good for like recording projects and being in a studio or something like that. But one of the things I do like is the harmonic trim. That's kind of like my go-to, especially for nice chordal work and little pretty arpeggiated chords. And the other side of this, it actually has reverbs and delays in there. So I have one of the, I think it's modulation 1. I have an analog delay going, so I can use that for like the soloing and all that good stuff, or just, again, prettying up some sounds. So it's quite handy that. And so that's going to be in loop 4. So I think I have all the bits and bobs I need to make this work. If not, I will just cut, come back when I do, which could be on a different day with the way everything is. I might have to order something in. But when I'm powering this stuff with, I'm going to be using all the Gig Rig stuff here, the distributor, the generator, the isolator, and we're going to hook up the bottom and all that stuff, so let's see what happens. Okay, so what we did so far is that we got the Velcro on the board, the loop side of the Velcro. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to flip this thing over and start trying to figure out where to put the power stuff. Get that kind of organized as best as I can, and go from there. I actually ran into a small issue with the Gig Rig generator. So I thought I was being clever by putting these little rubber feet at the bottom of my pedal train, which I've done before with the Nano Plus and the regular Nano, where it kind of just raises the board just a bit so you can get some of these power supplies underneath. Even with that, the minute Velcro comes into the equation, it's literally just touching the floor. It's not clearing the floor, which is what I would prefer. I prefer that it just clears the floor. So I had to kind of look this up to see what can be done about it, and Dan from the Gig Rig, or that pedal show fame, suggests using zip ties, so this way the generator won't touch the floor. It'll clear that way, because the Velcro is adding just enough to kind of make it touch the floor. So I'm going to try the zip tie thing. But as far as like the distributor and the isolators are concerned, Velcro's fine. No problem there. So yeah, I'm going to come back when I get this all together, I guess. I'll be right back. We're back in. So what I ended up doing to make this work, and I'm still kind of tidying it all up, and I'm kind of taking my sweet time with this, so, you know, it might be dark by the time I really get done with it. I put some Velcro around the generator so it can't move in either direction, and then I just use zip ties to keep it down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of clip the zip ties quite a bit, and I did it in a way where it shouldn't really affect the top of the board when I put pedals down. But again, we will see. This is not exactly the most ideal situation because of the way the Metro board series is, but it does clear. So I'm going to keep going with this, get the distributor and the isolators down, and I also have this Time Lord, which is going to be for the Keeley, because it's let me back that up, which is going to take more milliamps. So I'll be back. This took me a little bit of time to do because I've never done this before, and I'm, you know, a little nervous about it. But basically, what I ended up doing, I got everything power-wise underneath the board connected. So I have the generator to the distributor to the two isolators that I have, and the Time Lord, which gives you 550 mA on it. So that's going to go to the Keeley for now. So what I'm going to do next is get the pedals on the board, and then get everything kind of wired to the Quartermaster, and, you know, hope that I haven't made any mistakes along the way, which can happen, might happen, probably will happen, but we'll see. So it's gotten dark at this point. I've been going at this for a while now. I've had to troubleshoot quite a bit, especially problem is I'm dumb and I don't fully plan things. So I've had issues with the patch cables being just a smidge too short in places. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of have this be little hacks right now, and then later I'll get proper length patch cables. I really thought I had more that were longer. So I'm not too happy with, like, I don't like how tight these things are at the moment. So this is very temporary, so I can just get work done and film more stuff. We're almost there. I have the equator and the immerse reverberator to get on the board now. But that should be a lot easier because I don't have to like really connect it to any loops here. I just have to get the out to the equator, and then we'll be kind of gravy. So after that, I just have to wire the power to all the pedals, and I really hope that's the last of the drawbacks for tonight because I'm getting hungry. All right, I have everything wired up now, powered. I've been at this for a while, so I'm just gonna call it good with this for tonight. I'm gonna check the sounds of it a little bit later, and if everything is good to go, I'll do a video going through each of the pedals, the sounds, and all that stuff. But yeah, I don't consider myself done simply because of this patch cable situation. I definitely want to get that fixed up, so I'm not going to like super neaten the wiring under the board yet. I'm going to leave that for another time until the patch cable thing is satisfactory in my eyes. But other than that, it did take me a while. The gig rig stuff takes time to, especially if it's your first time, to get this wired up into the distributor, the isolators, the Time Lord, and then running it all to the pedals. That takes time, but I mean, considering that so many players are extremely happy with that system, you know, I hear things like the sound is cleaner, louder, purer, surprisingly, because the power is distributed much better to everything. The only other mistake that I kind of made with this for right now, and I'll see if I'll even fix it, is that I didn't realize that the Quartermaster needs 200 mA, and the isolators give out 135, I think. So that's under. I was aware of that for the excuse me, the mod station. So that's why I got the Time Lord, so I don't have to worry about that, since this has modulation and delays and reverbs in there. But I didn't realize the Quartermaster would need so much power, so that was my B for not really like looking that up. So what I just ended up doing, since everything else is isolated between the Time Lord and the isolators, I just put the Quartermaster on the distributor for right now. Okay guys, a bit of an update video on this pedal board. It's been about a week now since I built it. I had a bunch of stuff that I had said when I was reaching the end of building the board, but unfortunately ran out of memory on the camera, so I apologize for that. But basically what ended up happening is that I got all the power up and running on the board. It's really sweet, to be honest with you. I didn't really have too much of an issue once I got everything going. First of all, one of the things I noticed immediately was that everything sounded louder. Like all my pedals sounded louder. They sounded clearer, really, as if something is just a little bit more efficient. And I guess that could make sense considering that there is both a true bypass loop, which probably helps clean up the signal, obviously taking a certain amount of pedals out of the chain as it sits, as well as the power that just seems to just fixes it all up, I suppose. And I'm cool with that. I'm happy with that. So I figured let's just go through some sounds real quick and yeah, keep it rolling and it'll be awesome. So first things first, let's just kind of hear everything just kind of bypassed. I will turn off the equator. I will turn off the immerse. I don't really usually turn those off, but you'll notice that the volume is going to drop immediately. So not much volume there. So if I hit the equator back on, might get a little bit back. Immerse. But here's how I actually run everything. So the Ego is sort of my always on clean sound. Which I like. It's, you know, it gives me a little bit of that snap. It's poppy. Sounds really great on single coil guitars, but funny enough, because of this blend thing that you can do with the Ego, I actually like it a lot on humbucker guitars as well, and my humbucker guitars are, well, I have the arch top and I have my other Barlow. The Barlow, funny enough, is not that compressed. Usually humbuckers are, quite hot and compressed, but not mine. Mine are pretty nice and open, which is the way I like it. I like my guitars to keep me honest about my playing, so I can not suck. So what usually happens with this thing is that the tumness I generally don't use by itself. So usually I'll use that in conjunction with the ego compressor, because the tumness is quite an open kind of sound. So I'll kind of just have it as like a, as that sort of thing going on, which I think sounds quite nice. I like it. But most of the time, what's happening is I go to the Pantheon as my main drive kind of sound. And what I have this set for is a flip-flop. So as you can see, this is on right now. Hit the Pantheon, which is loop 3. That turns off. And that's because I don't really like the sound of the ego with the Pantheon. I think the Pantheon's doing enough of its own compression as is. But it's not anything too gainy either. I keep it pretty chill. So, and that's just with the singing coils. With the humbucker, but usually what ends up happening is that for lead sounds, like where I'm just like, yeah, I hit the tumness to juice the Pantheon. And that seems to have become sort of the classic sort of stacked sound currently with people who use Wampler pedals. The tumness into the Pantheon seems to be like a nice, really blossoming sound. Just has this nice like burning sound to it that I like, and it just takes all the right kind of EQ curves and blossoms them quite a bit. So I enjoy the tumness into the Pantheon quite a lot. Going back to the clean sound again, what I have on loop 4 is this Keeley Super Mod Station. Now, I'm not a huge modulation guy, but I really like this thing because it gives me a lot of options and choices, especially when you're in the recording studio and maybe you just want to layer like a rhythm track or something like that, or just have some weird kind of noise in the background, just really opening up the sound and layering things in. The Mod Station is great for that because I don't have to be married to any particular modulation effect. However, the beauty of this thing is that it also has reverbs and delays in it. So while I have my Neunaber immersive reverberator on all the time and just kind of acting as, giving a little breath to the guitar, I can use this for those more ethereal sort of sounds, if you will, or even use some of the delays as like a lead sound if I want. For right now, what I have going on with it is on modulation 2, which is the left switch here, I have a harmonic tremolo going. So let's take a quick listen to that. Which I think sounds cool. It's weird enough without getting too discomfortable. That's not a word. Uncomfortable is a word. But let's listen to the delay on with it. Let's try something like I don't know. That's quite pretty in my eyes. So the rest of the pedals kind of, like I said, they're tone shapers, or just gives the guitar some breath. So the equator, I have it set the way like you might do with a tube screamer, where that EQ curve is really pushing the mids, maybe just a little bit of bottom coming up, cleaning up the high end as well without the compression from a tube screamer and without the gain from a tube screamer. So it's really nice, because, especially since a lot of the amps I use don't always have a lot of mid range, either because of the speaker or just the way the preamp is set. So this really makes all the notes feel better to play. I know it's all this mystical Zen like things, but it makes the difference to the player, even if it doesn't make a difference to the listener per se. Of course, immersive reverberator, and of course I have my ditto looper there for when I have to practice or I need to kind of show a student something. A lot of my job is playing and teaching, so having that on there is kind of a must. But yeah, other than that, tuner, it tunes, super accurate, and everything's powered by the Gig Rig stuff. I'm happy with it. I hope you dig it. And yeah, I'll catch you guys next time.